Okay.
And tonight should be a similar pace to what last night was because Deborah's done
Okay, great.
a lot.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll do X Factor, full body hang, training wheels, shoulder sequence, maybe even superfly. See how it goes. Okay, so let's continue on with our alignment principles and talk about the shoulders and the lats, which is so important in what I see in terms of posturing and alignment for people. It's really, really tough to get a shift in the upper body if the head isn't directly over the spine, first off. Like even in something like this, when we come into our forward fold, everybody is just dropping their head. It's just not good. No bueno. Head is heavy. That goes right into the C7 joint. Not a good idea. Okay, let alone some of the other postures where you just see their head hanging off the front of their body. If that's happening, guaranteed the shoulders are rolled forward. Guaranteed. That means their scapula has slid off their back into their armpits, which means their lats aren't engaged at all, which means all of their weight, all their upper body weight is going into their traps. That's a lot of strain on the spine. C7 joint injuries are very, very popular. So I really work with the shoulder loops and getting the wings on the back. Okay, so I'm going to turn around so it's a little bit more obvious, and I happen to have gigantic wings, literally, but no. The wings on the back, it's like the bottom tips of the shoulder blades should be squeezing towards the sternum, that spot right behind the heart. Okay? And then the top tips of the shoulder blades are pulling away. That's why when I say when you're in chilaxin arms, pull your elbows away from one another. Okay? And then at the same time, pull the lats down, and that's going to get the bottom tips of the shoulder blades to touch. So your lat, so most people, their shoulder blades are like this. We're pulling them towards one another so the bottom tips come towards one another, but the top tips flare out, which allows your shoulders to spread wide. It allows your collarbones to be even with the earth. Most people are like this, right? So paying attention to the collarbones. It's kind of a big deal because then all of this can open. Okay? And now we're going to talk about the spirals. There's two spirals in the body, mainly, that we work with. We have an internal spiral in the legs, and you'll hear me say that quite a bit, right? And then we have an external spiral in the upper body. This is similar to Iyengar or Anusara, where we want to get the elbows in, but the thumbs out, right? So when I say like turn the shoulders over, that's the position. And if your hands are by your hips, can you see how the elbows are out and the shoulders are turned down? So a lot of times, this is how people are hanging and then they're pulling the arms back. Not a great idea. It's how like strain the shoulder joint. So this is the flex position I've been teaching you guys. Can you all stand up and do this with me? We're gonna expedite it since we just have a few minutes left here. So pull your elbows towards your rib cage. Okay, and then push them forward towards me so your hands are pulling back slightly. Yeah, that's it. So that's the flex position. Does that feel different, right? And notice what happens to the chest. See how the sternum naturally lifts? Yeah. So I'm just going to come over and just do a little bit of it. No, that's it. Yeah, that position. And I want you to feel the bottom tips of your shoulder blades on your back. A little bit more engaged with your arms. Like this. That's it. Could you feel how that lifted the sternum? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's our new position. That's all the shortcut when I say flex. When I say
it feels really powerful.
It feels really powerful, right? That's
like,
why.
Almost like if I was around someone else, I feel like I would be like scaring them.
Well, you're not that scary, first of all, but I would, you know. So let's just feel our shoulders. Feel the position of the shoulders. We're not going to walk around addressing people like this. What we're going to do is keep our upper body exactly like this and relax our arms down to our sides, palms up. Turn your thumbs all the way back, all the way, even more. Yes. Can you feel your lats? Can you feel your shoulder blades on your back? Okay, now just keep this part from the elbow up exactly the same. From your elbow down, turn your hands towards your sides, but keep the upper body exactly as is. Can you see, look, your hands move independent of your shoulders. Isn't that amazing? Okay, it's not this. I'm exaggerating just this, but we keep that external rotation, and just from the elbow, we rotate the hands down. Does this feel scary? No? A little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still have all that openness in the chest. Can you guys feel that? That's what we're doing in the swing without all of that detail. Because I took what I learned from these other yoga practices and I translated it into something. So now, externally rotate. Turn your thumbs all the way back. Now bend your elbows. Notice you're in your flexed position. Now, keep that same position. Bring your arms up and interlace your fingers. Pull your elbows out wide, wide, wide. Okay? So that's putting your shoulder blades on your back in the same way. So that's why I go for chillax and arms and flex, because I'm getting that external rotation. Okay? Yeah. So you like to pull your shoulders up to your ears, so we have to get those lats working like a little bit more. Okay? Yeah. Just kind of comes in time, but they can get a little bit further down the back for you. Something happening here, so your shoulders are riding up. We want to keep them down. Okay, so that's the external rotation and the lats on the back. We have to pull our lats down. So just even in this position from flexed, try it, Selena. Just pull the lats down the back. Squeeze the bottom tips of the shoulder blades together and pull the lats down the back. Let your hands be wide. So here's up, here's down. So when I'm in like a sumo squat and I'll have people just roll their shoulders around and pull against the swing, the swing is allowing you to get something to help you engage, something to pull against, right? Good. So that's really going to change the position of the shoulders. So just the bottom. Shoulders stay exactly for the rest of your human existence. Keep the shoulders on the back, externally rotated, and just move from the elbows. Okay? Does that feel better? Can you feel the difference? Because even here, then people will go, I'm like, no, wait, all of that was for stay, It lifts the chest, it lifts the sternum, it does all the things that we're trying to do. Now the swing is great because it's going to help strengthen the lats because we don't have anything to pull down against, right? So the lats get lazy, and so that means the shoulder blades slide. Okay, let's keep going. So that was the external spiral with the shoulders, and then pulling them down the back. Let me pick this up so I'm not looking down the whole time. That's why I like to stand. Okay, so we did the shoulder loop, now we're gonna do the leg loop. So, you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. There's two different spirals that happen in the body. They have to do with the double tetrahedron, the way the Merkaba spins. We have one pyramid coming down, we have another pyramid coming up. They have different spirals, that's how the energy moves. Module 3. For now, we just have to trust that most people are like this, externally spiraled in the legs, right? Men in particular like to do the duck thing, okay? Pointing the toes forward, slightly pushing the heels away, spreading the sit bones, making space for the sacrum will allow the tailbone to sink straight down. Spreading the sit bones is a huge, big deal for people. People are tight-assed. It's kind of like the legs became one and you're just squeezing them towards the center line. Not good for the Kundalini energy. Spreading the sit bones, pushing the heels out, allowing there to be an internal rotation. Okay, it also allows the hips to sit back over the ankle bones. We were talking about that the first day, just slightly. This is all that we do when we come into our forward folds. And then when we pull the knees together, ankles together, when we're in our supported headstand, that's allowing for the internal spirals. There's a lot of different poses where I'll just say push the heels out and spread the sit bones. It's super important that we get that spiral so that the femur can sit in the hip socket. It releases the lower back pain. Once our tailbone is allowed to sink down, so let's talk about the position of the tailbone. So I'm always telling people to rock their pubic bone back and down. At the same time, you push your tailbone into your pubic bone, and this allows the energy to lift up the spine. So we get the position of the legs, pubic bone, tailbone push towards one another, and that allows for the mula bandha, or the energy to flow up the spine. Can you guys start to feel that?
Mm-hmm.
If the pubic bone is rocked forward, that means your tailbone is tucked under, which means you're unplugged. We have to plug in. So we're going to skip around a little bit here because I want to get to stacking the bones. Stacking the bones. So there are several positions where the bones are stacked. Okay? So let's work on plugged and unplugged. So this is unplugged, this is plugged. So I like to plug in the legs and plug in the arms. And you do this by stacking the bones and pulling them back into the joints. That's what we're doing here, is we're plugging the shoulders back in. This is unplugged, this is plugged. So it's super important, especially when we're in handstands and all these poses where you think it's really obvious, like a down dog, the arms have to be straight, okay? Like, you cannot bend your elbows and be in a handstand. Over and over again, I'm like, straighten the arms, Jesus, like, your head, you protect the noggin. So arms are always straight in those poses. Plank pose, handstands, upside down dog. So stacking the bones means the wrists, the elbows, and the shoulders are in a straight line, okay? This position, they're in a straight line. This position, they're in a straight line. This position is in a straight line. This is not it. We don't want to be in this V shape. You know, when we're in a down dog, it's okay, but even here, there's a collapse. So as much as possible, we want to stack the bones in anything that's weight bearing, straight up and down. And so it's amazing that people don't know where, the same with the feet. The feet want to be hip distance. People are like this. I'm like, your hips are not that wide. You know, some people don't know how wide their hips are. So you got to help them find the stack. But we always want to stack our bones, and we're going to really focus on that today in our workshop. It's super important, particularly in this position. Okay, this is our strongest line. So when you guys are in Superfly, and I say pull the energy towards the center line, everybody was too wide. This is not your strongest position. This is one of our weaker positions. Okay, so it's really important to pull it in. That brings the energy back to the center line of the body. Just even try it. Pull it in. Feel the difference, right? When you pull it in, you can feel all the muscles start to engage in a new way. So we're going to try Superfly again, and we're going to pull all the energy towards the center line, stack the bones, get the external rotation, see if we can get a better lift, a better push. It's pretty amazing, I have to say, the difference between learning it the first time and then applying these alignment principles. The same with keeping the pillar. You know, keeping the pillar when you're in a horizontal position so nothing is collapsed. It's really quite significant. Okay, so when we find our plumb line, so hips heavy. So we learned a lot of physics yesterday of the body. We learned the pivot points. We learned how to leverage our power. We learned how to change planes. And then we learned how to lower our center of gravity. So did you ever, like, somebody went to go pick you up and you didn't want them to pick you up and you're like, no, and you just kind of like grunted down? Well, you can actually make yourself, or somebody went to pick you up and you were like, lift, right? And you went and made yourself lighter and kind of went with the movement. Well, when we want to really ground, we can actually lower our center of gravity and make our hips heavy. So I want you guys to just practice while you're standing here, really pushing down and grounding through your feet and making your hips heavy, and feel what it feels like. And at the same time of doing that, I want you to feel yourself lifting your sternum up and rising. So get those two opposing forces even when you're standing here, and feel the space that happens in the body. Maybe tension happens because you're not used to it. But feel like you can ground and lower your center of gravity, but at the same time keep your upper body lifted. And that's what we do in the swing. We allow our upper body to stay lifted, And at the same time, we're grounding down and making our hips really heavy by pushing our tailbone down, pushing our sit bones down. And you'll see that in simple poses like chilaxin or seated pigeon or floating Buddha, where their hips are just floating away, right? They're not getting that nice dynamic tension. So if we can find it here, we can find it in the swing then. Okay. So working with the pivot points, understanding that our power center is actually here and working from this place in terms of moving the energy in our body is super important, because most people are moving from their head. You'll notice everyone is doing this to try to lift their body. It doesn't work. And so this is really important, even when we're in a forward fold, that we're pushing our hips forward and then lifting our body from here. Hips go back, head comes forward, hips comes forward, head comes up. Amazing. So we do that in all of our inversions and all of our back bends, that we're leading from our hips instead of our head. So our head is just going along with it. Head doesn't do anything anymore except for go along with it. Be nice. Okay. So core engagement is basically the crux of everything we do. We've been just doing a little bit of core engagement, but in all the poses, we're focusing on pulling in and up through the navel at the same time as we're grounding down. I keep saying lifting the sternum, but that is my shortcut for getting the navel to come in and up and activating. When I say core, I mean the entire torso is involved, because people get really, we'll just say, lazy with the mid-thoracic spine, and it's like an accordion where it gets all like slinky. And we really want to get that lift and that engagement there through our core to move through any of the poses. Otherwise, we droop in the center, right? We don't want to have that little, like, poor elephants, I always say, like the elephant droop, you know, the belly coming forward. When we're in all of our horizontal poses, we're getting that nice, strong pillar wrapping around the central pathway, and that's what alleviates back pain, because we're no longer overarching from the lumbar. But that's with the core engagement in and up. So we do the core engagements and lots of different sit-ups from different positions. Which means our arch, instead of coming, so let's talk about this for a minute. It's okay. So we have an arch here, like our spine is a natural S shape. It's supposed to be. So we have an arch at the lumbar, and we have an arch at the cervical spine. These two are where people overbend from already. It's already arched. So if you imagine the vertebrae, if you arch even more from there, you're going to pinch the back side, which means you're flaring out the front. Okay, so that's why if we pull in and up here and start to arch from the upper thoracic spine, it's kind of like you're leaning back into a platter, right? And there's support for the body weight. It's kind of like a rainbow, or how they used to make the archways, right? So instead of like pinching or kinking a straw at the lumbar or the cervical, we start to move from the upper thoracic spine, and then the whole back can bow. Okay, so where the swing hits, how we go into initiate our back bends, all of the support of the head, so we're not just dropping the neck back. All of the support in the lower body where the swing slides down and acts as like a little spacer, so we're not overextending from the lumbar spine, allows for the heart to lead the way. And that's, you know, the whole heart-centered practice is arching from the upper thoracic spine. Seems really obvious, but it's good to even mention that, because if you don't mention the upper thoracic spine, people don't even know what that is or connect it to that part of the body. I see it as the closet. Everyone just like throws all their attention back there. That's where they store all of their stress, you know, behind the heart. So like we're presencing our heart. All the matters of the heart are coming forward with the swing. You know, all the stuff that was stored in the back, I call it their shell, right? Their little armor. Everyone comes in for body work, just, you know, chip away at my shell. And I'm like, how about if we work on the heart? I'm like, no. Just the shell. Just the shell, please. Well, all this tension that lives along the paraspinals will just drain out of the body when we open up the front of the spine. 100% of the time, I work on the front of the body when there's back pain. 100% is coming from the front. It's definitely the remedy. Not everybody loves it. Okay, so we talked about stacking the bones, arching from the upper thoracic spine and all of our back bends. And then, of course, we talked extensively about supporting the head with the hands in chilaxin pose and pulling up and out. Okay, let's just spend 5 minutes feeling some of the yoga massage. And I'm gonna practice on you, Selena, since you have to go. Will your person come in or?
He'll come in, yeah.
So when we hear him, then we'll wrap up. But go ahead and get into chillaxing, facing forward. And I'm gonna show the yoga massage adjustments that we do here, incorporating everything that we've been learning. You can come into chillaxing too. Okay, I'll come over. Okay. So she's gonna drop her hips, right? And just feel how when you drop your hips and internally rotate your legs. Could you feel that? Mm-hmm. And you lift the heart, lift the sternum. Let your head relax back into your hands. Elbows flare a little bit wider. Pull your lats down your back. Mm-hmm. Good. So now she's in position. She's going to stay there because usually as soon as I come over and put my hands on someone, they completely collapse, which is sweet. But we're trying to get them to stay engaged so I can show them. The crown of the head is pointing up towards the back corner of the room. That looks perfect. Okay? And my hands come over, not under, over. And my little fingers go around hers, and I like to put the little nape of the palm, the fatty part of the thumb, onto the cheeks. And then I'm gonna pull straight back. And give her a little stretch here. So that's our chillaxing yoga massage, the real simple one. I'm just gonna pull straight back. Now her elbows are not going very wide because of her shoulders, so I'm not gonna push her elbows open. Okay, so I'm lifting up and out a little bit more than normal just to accommodate that. We're not gonna force anything. How does that feel? So good. So good. Right? So we're getting into that tight part that we stretched when we were in triangle pose. Second one is still up and over. I'm gonna let her head rest on my belly as long as she's comfortable with it. I'm hooking underneath where the arm inserts into the armpit. I'm hooking underneath there, and I'm just gently rocking her from side to side while I lean back. I'm going to be really easy about it. I'm not trying to do anything fancy. We're not going fast. How's that feel?
Really good.
I'm opening up her arms a little bit wider, but I'm trying to not put any pressure on the joints. Right? Beautiful. So we're just going to stick to those two stretches. I'm going to come over and show you next. Okay? And we're going to end there with the yoga massage. We'll come back and learn some more with the chillaxing. Selena has a guest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.